Hi everyone, welcome back to the studio. We're going to continue our landscape study. I think we're on number 10, I think this time, hopefully. And we're going to, this time I'm going to paint a scene, a reference from a ranch up in Wyoming. I just love Wyoming. We're just about an hour away from Wyoming where we live here in Nebraska, and I go up there all the time. But I have this, we'll talk about the colors here, and I have this photo, nice reference photo. Man, it's a little bit darker than what I want to do. I printed it out in Windows. It's a little bit too light than what I want to do. I should just lighten up this photo a little bit in Photoshop and print it, but I'm just going to be using it as a reference. I'm not going to be copying anything in here. So we have a nice little mountain range. There's right out of Cheyenne, between Cheyenne and Laramie, there's a nice little mountain range, the Laramie range. So I might change these up to match that a little bit. I don't know. We'll get in there. There's a little ranch house back here. I might just give the indication of it. I think that would be kind of cool. There is some of the green algae in here in the water. I'm going to get rid of that. Might put a few rocks or so in here. I like maybe a cut bank into the shadow here, coming back into the light. And I might block paint these bushes and stuff in here this time. We haven't really done that together in landscaping, and that's very popular in landscape looks and stuff. So, we'll get into that. So first thing I'm going to do here is, this is kind of a grayish kind of day back here in a nice purple foothills. They're not really mountains, like in Wyoming you have mountains. But it is kind of, I'll find this value here. It's way up though. It's way up around an 8 to a 9. And I think I'm going to use some ultramarine and a little bit of that phthalo both in here to kick this blue over, and I'm going to lighten it up quite a bit because it's going to dry a little darker. So that is close. It had to have a little bit more ultramarine into that to bring that a little closer there. So it'll be just a little bit heavier on the ultramarine than what it is on the phthalo, because the phthalo is so darn powerful. Now let's lighten that up even again. Get a good 9 here, and we'll go this 3/4 inch brush. Will go for my palette colors out here. Okay, same ones we've used in all the other ones: the Hansa yellow, Indian yellow, yellow oxide, naphthol red light, burnt sienna, phthalo green blue, phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, the red, violet, black, and white. And we'll use that black and the yellow to make some of these greens in here, and then we'll use the phthalo green in here as well. So that'll make them kind of pretty. All right, let's get into this. So we'll push this, and now, with some of that unmixed color in my brush came out just a little darker than I want. So, but I want to use my brush here, 3/4 inch brush, and do this. Now, the board that I decided to go with today as I'm doing this, the board I decided here today is, I made mine. I had one out there. It's, how I like to do what I call the 1080p painting. This is a 17 by 11 board, and it's a 1/4 inch. It's an end cut from another painting I did. It's a 1/4 inch of red oak plywood, which is a beautiful wood to paint on. I do a lot of Dutch florals, and I paint on the old red oak panels. They didn't use, they used real red oak, but I paint on a lot of the wood panels like that. So I'm going to come down right in, and I made a sketch, and you can see how really accurate my sketch was. I just took my pencil and was just going through like this and not really moving it, and I just wanted to have some ideas. I don't, sometimes I do a little bit more. Today I'm going to keep this kind of casual. Now I'm going to vary the blue just a bit, add a touch more up in here, and I want to model it a bit. I love the painterly look. I classify myself in a lot of things. I do more of the impressionist of it. So I used to be a realist for a long time, for many years, paint more realism. Now I love brushworks and movements and just capturing, by leaving some of that, capturing some of the atmosphere of what's going on. Let's go a little lighter. Now in the photo, there's some clouds and stuff along here, but let's just mist this up and put some light. And so, you know, I used to, when I started out, I used to always do my landscape, my sky strokes, very much in the horizontal. Now I do a lot of verticals too, climb them up and just create that. I like that misty interest that goes in there. That's what I like. You can do whatever you like, but I like that kind, and get a little bit of paint on there, get some of that movement through there. That just, you know, I'm a very big advocate of making it a painting. And I'm going to talk about that as we paint the water. You know, there's so many artists, and I did it for so many years. I'm not, you know, when I talk to you like this, I don't put down other artists, and I don't say bad things about other, you know, techniques and stuff, because they're all great. They all, you know, you were all creating different ways. But I did for many years, I'd take a big brush and pull down and then go side to side to soften out. And that's fantastic. As a matter of fact, some of my favorite paintings I've done that. But today I like to have a little more brush calligraphy in what I do. And, you know, we're artists, we're people, we change. And, you know, your likes and dislikes are going to change. And so where you might look at doing this front river like that, where we pull down and soften it out, I'm going to do it more of a tonal, impressionistic, and not be using that big brush to pull down and soften out like I used to so many years ago. And because, you know, we have this nice smooth stuff here, and that, you know, that would paint it pretty easy. But I like a painting to be a painting today, if that makes sense. I don't like it to be a photo. I like it to be a painting. That's where I'm at, and that's where a lot of my clients and customers are. So what I'm going to do is put in now this blue area. The one thing that you remember about landscapes, about what you see here, and we're looking at this water here at a really kind of a 45 angle, so it picks up a lot of reflects a lot of the sky here. But if you notice the reflections, and this is the one thing about reflections, if you're going to paint accurate reflections are the color just a little bit darker. Sometimes they'll be, a little warmer, you'll pick up even more. So you'll see, like in here, a lot of burnt sienna, where you see a lot of yellow up in here. And same here. See all the real bright yellow here, but more of a burnt sienna tone down in through here. So reflections generally darken. And so the sky here is generally going to darken down just a bit here. So I'll take some of that upper top sky. Sometimes I will gray it down here when I go to do this. And so I'll put this on. Now that's pretty darn close to what it is that I want to do. That's pretty close. It'll dry down about a value or so darker. But let me show you. If I gray down just a tiny bit of the burnt sienna in here, which will warm it up, which this whole scene is very warm. And the other thing that it does by doing that is it takes this burnt sienna into your painting. And so should eventually put some of that right up in here into that. But that'll make a blue here that'll go a lot better, a little bit warmer, a little bit better right up in here, up into this area here. So I'm going to pull some nice horizontals here, and I'm going to put the tone in. I will take a bit of water. We'll pull down a few verticals, but I want a couple of nice horizontals across like that, all the way to the edge there, just like that, to set that blue. And we'll watch that as that dries down. And then I might take just a bit of that blue up and through here. That'd be pretty as well. And so you'll catch a little bit of it, but the sky overall will feel lighter than what's going on down here. Now, let's get some of our darks in. So let's go more blue here. And let's get a burnt sienna and a touch of green into this. Get this darker. We're looking for these tones right down in here. And let's drop this in. One reason, and I don't want to mix these up real well. I want these just modeled in my brush. You can see how they're coming off of my brush. And I'm going to tone paint this in different ways here. And I just want to get that nice dark in there. I love that burnt sienna green. Love some of those tones coming out in there. So I want that. And it's that burnt sienna is a nice warm dark, and plays really well here with the cools here as well of the sky and stuff. Now, as I'm coming up through here, you'll see there's a softening. There's actually a violet color. Let's get rid of that right off there. There's actually more of a violet that comes up through here. So let's step off to the side here and make a little bit more of a violet. Drop that in here, blue, violet with some of that. Let's drop that tone in as well right in there, see? And, you know, right now you're probably freaking out going, how are we going to soften that, you know, in there? Well, with a lot of water, you know, just like when we painted the canyon and everything, you don't necessarily, I mean, they don't always come in there and just blend the heck out of it. I do it with layers of color and pulling down. Now, that said, I can take my brush, rinse this out, put a little bit of water in it, and this is what the Heritage is designed to do, and just with that water in my brush, pull through a couple of times like that. The colors don't need to be wet. The Heritage stays wet like this for you know, at least an hour or so. So you got time to just pull through and create some of that movement. Now there's nice movement down in through here with the water, with little clouds and stuff like that. So we'll take a bit of that up there, and we'll take just a bit. Now, sometimes I will use my paper towel and back off and add movement and stuff up into there. And you know, I'm going to add a lot more to this this photo. But see how we have clouds. These are reflections of the clouds that are down here. And look at the purple and violets in them. But you know, we will probably go there. But right now, I just want to model it up and see some of these tones. And I really, really want to see these nice kind of warms and some of these different tones right up in here in the front of this water. I think that's just going to be amazing here. So I'll put some of that in. And I don't always like the calligraphy completely softened out, so I'll just model that up just a bit. That gives it a little bit more of a, believe it or not, a little bit more of a realism as the colors are bouncing around. They don't really blend out. Okay, so that looks pretty good in there. Let's get some of our colors that we're going to put in here. Actually, no, let's go back to the mountains here first. Let's start let's keep kind of consistent. So, you know, the thing is, you can go anywhere and you're looking at tones. You're a tone painter. You know, when you're painting with me, you're a tone painter. We're finding the tones, we're blocking it in and putting it in. You can go anywhere in that painting during this time, so it doesn't really make too much of a difference, you know, where you're going to go. But, you know, I do like to work from the back front, and we have this nice violet which will help us right here into the mountains. And so all of these together here actually would make really pretty mountains. So I add just a little water. Don't mix it up too much. Let's grab a little bit of that burnt sienna. And so you'll see it's pretty close to that mountains. Mountains have a little more violet in it, so I just might add a little bit more violet. And remember, they'll dry down, and I might want to lighten them up just a bit more. So touch more light. So I'm going to be in here value like a 6. Maybe it'll dry down to a 5. I'm going to add just a bit of water here, and I'm going to kind of what I call big brush paint these in. Why I use the big brush, and I'm fracturing the edges. See how I'm fracturing the edges here? That's a technique that a lot of Western painters use that is going to allow them to establish depth later on. And we can blur those edges in and out like that. And especially these edges look fantastic when we come back with a little bit of sky later. Right now, it's hard to do that. You want to come in there. See, here's the thing. If I come in here like this and I put in this sharp little line like that, that doesn't recede as much as what this blurred line is going to do. So we want to have a bit of this, and that's why I'll use the brush, and I'll use it, you know, an old brush here on its angle, and I'll push that in. And this took me the longest time as a landscape, you know, as an artist. It just took me the longest time to kind of get used to being able to do this, to leave it that rough. But man, they look amazing when you start to, and you'll refine some up a bit and everything, but it looks absolutely amazing as we start to refine it. And and take the sky and the mountains back and forth, you'll get a heck of a lot more distance and more interest in it. I know it's, if you're like me, who is very left-brained and logical, analytical, and liked smooth lines, and that's why I was a realist for a long time. I mean, I could see that this kind of technique is really hard to do. It took me a while to get that. So let's go over here to the side. I'm going to just lighten this up. And why do we do that? Lighten this up back up over here. That creates a little more atmosphere. The atmospherics, as they move further away, it gets lighter and lighter, okay? All right, so that's my big brush that coming in there. Now I'm going to take, let's go back here to like my number 8 here, and let's take some of these colors down, and let's come down into the foothills a bit of violet still. Foothills, we're going to add some more burnt sienna to it and start adding a little bit of yellow here as well. Here, okay. And I'm going to be pushing with my brush in just a bit, not yet. It's a little soon. I'm going to be pushing with my brush though to push colors, to push different types of movements there into these foothills. So I'm going to push some of this color around. Very impressionistic. You just want this color to move back there. And the thing is, it's prettiest if you're, we're planned, we're working on this thing, but we let it just happen back here. Let these colors just happen and streaks in them just happen. It'll look more natural. It's hard, but it looks more natural. It's hard just to let some of that happen sometimes. Okay, let's lighten it up. Okay, lighten it up. Push that back up over here a little bit lighter. We'll get more atmospheric here. Let some of that come forward there just a bit. Move your brush. Remember the calligraphy of your brush just adds so much angles and stuff like that. Let's go lighter. Let's work that corner a little lighter back here. Let's get that lighter yet. We're going to want some of this light in here. That's a bit of a solid color. I'm not too happy with that. It's a little too solid. Let's get a little more variety to it. A little burnt sienna. That makes it prettier. Get that variety in there. Set these back. Okay. And now let's take some of that lighter. Let's get some yellows, some burnt siennas into this. Model this up here like that. Now see what you have here. Get rid of that little color there. See all these little, these took me the longest time. These are hard. You just go in there with your brush and just kind of leave them. It's kind of like leaving, snow patterns and stuff like that into mountains. So that's hard to come back and push some of that stuff in to those. But this is going to be, and you'll generally do too much, like I just did a little bit too much. I always do a little bit too much, and then I just take it down later. But I like to just push those. These are like little areas of grass and stuff that are going to be back there into the trees. Vary the color a bit. Let's blue some of that up with a little violet here. Change that tone up just a bit, just a touch or two of those. Some of this is going to paint out here. This is the impressionism of it here. So let's pull some of that back. Get them softer as they go back over here. Now we're not done with these mountains and stuff yet, so don't be worrying on that, okay? I could hear some of my students right now going, are we done with those yet? No, we're not. We're painting impressionists. We got to watch our edges. So we're going to go back, restate the sky, restate the mountains. What you try to do is go in, and when you're painting impressionists, just let yourself go, just fly, put it in there, get all this natural movement. One artist, one modern day master that I like to follow, he always says, when you're first putting it in, don't work your wrist at all with your brush. Work your shoulder. Work the power of the brush, the movements from your shoulder. And that took me a while to get that, but he's so right. He is so right that, you know, when you're working that power like that, if you can do it, it's a hard thing to do. If you can do it, though, it's awesome. It does work. Let's put a bit more light right at that end, because we have to put the light and dark angles onto our mountains here as well. This is just breaking it up a bit. That's really kind of a nice little, if you can leave it optically, those are nice. If you can leave them. Most of the times I play with them a little bit and destroy it. But see all the color working in there? Let's get a little more yellow. Just a bit more yellow oxide hitting on some of that. There, that works pretty good. Now, let's come down again. Add some more yellow. Let's get our burnt siennas. We look down through here. We have more of our siennas and our lights and our warms here. And let's get a little bit more light in that. Don't overmix your colors. Okay, don't overmix your colors, and let's pull through again, this time slightly angled this way, and deposit that through. That's a bit overmixed. So I'm going to toss in some yellow and some burnt sienna here. Here. There like that. Push that in and through. Let's get a bit of these greens in there too. Some of these other colors. See, I'm looking at the colors, see it pulling down. And I'm pulling at this slight angle because we're painting kind of the foothills here. Some of this is going to be covered up by trees. Okay. And I'd like to have a bit of that light, kind of a light plane right up in here on that one as well. There we go. That'll work. And don't go in there and make it too much a definitive shape yet. Let's lighten up. Push some of this back here so it's going to go a little bit more atmospheric here. Just like that. Okay. And boom, have to set that back. And we'll go pick up some more of this color. Let's push that right in here, bringing this forward a bit. There we go. And this is a perfect job for, you know, where your scraper is. Got another scraper. Now, every time I go to the home store, and I went up to the home store up in Scottsbluff, which is about an hour, a little over an hour away from me, and they just had all kinds of little scrapers, just little $5 ones. This one I liked it because it was really flexible, long, a little longer, a little flexible. So I thought I'd give it a try. It's only $5, so I picked it up. It's called a Red Devil, and so I'm just gonna model some of this here and see if I can pull some of that interest right across there like that. Boy, that one works pretty good. Look at the variation of the tone that you get in there. That actually works really good here. I like that that kind of scraping. Now I can hold it more flat and take some of that out, soften it out. See, just like that. Push down, push hard, and flatten it like that. And you'll get some of that other. Now see, can you imagine doing that with a brush? You'd be there all day trying to do that with a brush, where the scraper does it really fast. And let's put a bit of those blues and stuff in there. Pull those down. And yeah, that works. And let's get some more yellows over here. Put those, see, I pull it down like this and I'm looking at that streak. I don't want to do it so much where those streaks disappear, because I want those streaks, right? We want those. There we go. We can push some of that. Oh, boy, that really changes, because the blade is so long, that really changes the feel here. If you step back just a bit. Really changes that. Let's get that a little bit more yellow. And you know me, I like to build paint too. I want to build this paint up in here. Some of these different colors. Drag that a little flat like that. Here like that. Now, Boy, that is a nice little scraper. It just saved me a ton of work on this painting by putting some of these colors in. Now I can come back and manipulate some of these areas, push through with my brush, soften or restate or push the color a bit here. What I like, let's just take some of these greens right out over here. And the scraper puts on the colors nice and thick, so they're going to stay for a while here. And yeah, that works pretty well. And I could probably have a little bit more here. And this is where, I'll start doing some of it with, with my brush held flat, because that's a different look as well. So let's just pull some of this down like that. The thing is, you want to vary, right? And like I said, in so many of the paintings, that those of you that follow me in online classes and stuff, variation is the key to interest. We always want to vary our colors, our tones, our stroke, our calligraphy, and that makes the painting more natural here. Okay, so we'll step back. Now see, you step back on it, all of those tones and stuff start to blend a little bit, and it gets a little bit better. And, I think I like that. Let's see, let's go down, and then we'll put some of this bank in, and then we'll come back and work the water and stuff again, and the sky, and then we'll fix up those mountains back there so that you don't think I've lost my mind yet here. Let's actually get a little bit more. And you know what? I think I'm going to do this really nice. We'll grab some of my other yellows here too. And we'll go grab this bank up here. See, it's got a lot of really nice coming out towards the light a bit. We'll model this up just a bit here without it being too much here. And let's just pull that across. Wow, that's a nice look. That gets a lot of those tones and that nice thick paint in there. We're going to take half of that away with a cut bank, but that's going to work out nice. Because you got to, for me, I have an idea in my mind where I'm going with this. You don't. So, I know what some of this I'm going to be painting out. I'm just looking for the small little edges of it. And try to get as much of a nice interest as you can. We might come along here on the shoreline, and we're going to push the river coming around the corner and stuff there too. So there's a long ways to go, but this will work. Just carry some of those tones out. That'll work. Let's wipe off this scraper here so it stays nice here. If you don't use it for 15-20 minutes, that paint will dry hard. Then you'll have a little bit more of a difficult time getting it off. Okay, let's fill back up in here with some of my blues, a little violet here, and a little burnt sienna. Let's get some of these tones back up in here, back up against where that edge is going to be. Let's just work that. We're going to work a very fractured edge along here. So I'm just going to push some of that together here right now. We're going to work a very fractured edge here. So the thing is, when you're painting like this, you're not painting the element here perfect. You're imparting some, we'll go in and fix, and we'll do some fun stuff, but we don't want to really paint it perfect. Not with the first go around. Then we can start to refine it. We block it, and then we start to refine it. Let's take some of that dark, that beautiful tone, and let's create that cut going around the corner. And I like to do this while the paint's kind of thick a little bit, so I pull some of those tones out like that. And I don't want to have too many long, perfect strokes here. So, I want to vary everything. Now we're going to have some bushes and stuff along through here. They're going to pull down. We'll put them in, then pull some down. And some of this tone. Let's get some of this real dark, almost violet color. Let's pop that right in here where that bank is going to be. We'll let that kind of tack up, dry up a bit, right in there. And so what the Impressionist does when you do this is we squint down, we pick out the lights, the darks. We don't pick out any details. We pick out the lights, darks, details. I'll pick out some movement and stuff. And then it's kind of like as you're getting more on, then you start opening your eyes up a little bit, which is going to allow you to start seeing detail. But for right now, I don't want to see that. Now, I may come in here with a medium tone, what we call a half tone. A half tone of some of this blue that's right between my light and my dark there. This light and dark color, just to put a tone in there to soften the exchange just a bit of where my water's going to be. And I might go just a little bit lighter to the water here and push that right along the edge there. All this will soften out because we're going to tone paint it and stuff, but we can see that coming in there. Now, the thing is, step back, take a look at it and see how you're doing, and we're doing fine. We're doing fine. So let's take a bit of that now. We added a touch of burnt sienna. And when I'm coming back with water, and you've seen me paint water now many ways, but when I'm coming back with water, I don't, just like you'll see in here, look at all the different colors of water. So you want to vary your blue a lot. Let's put a little more blue violet or a little more of the ultramarine in that. You want to vary this water and don't take too long of strokes here. Keep them kind of short. Very much calligraphy. Drop that in. There. That's kind of nice. Let's get just a bit more light out there. We'll restate just a little bit of that light out here. Sometimes I'll do that with my big 3/4 inch here. We'll set that in. That's kind of nice. Now, okay, so that sets that in. Now I just want to get rid of this over here, which is going to be a big bush. Let's just clean up our palette. And I do this many times. I'll clean up my palette, then take the color over a little bit more where I think it needs to be. A little more burnt sienna and a little bit more of my yellows there. And let's just block in some of this tone right here. Cleans up the palette and uses up some of the color. It's a little solid, but it's okay. It's just putting the tone on. We're going to be painting a little cut bank there and some bushes and stuff like that. So, and the other thing is, you can come back the other way and scrape too to take off some things. And so sometimes you're putting on, sometimes you're scraping off here and stuff. So that works really nice as well. Sometimes I'll take the edge of a bristle brush or the edge of my towel and come through and break the edge off so I don't leave a ridge of paint. So I break the edge off like this so you don't leave a ridge of paint. That becomes easier for you to soften out later on in the painting, okay? All right, so now those mountains have set up back there, so we can go back there and start working their edges, okay? Let's work their edges. We're going to want to put in some lights and some darks. Let's come back in here towards our violets. A little bit of our ultramarine blue and violet. Some of these greens, they're beautiful violet colors. Not exactly the same. We'll leave those colors in there, okay? And let's go back. Let me rinse that real quick. We'll go back, pick up just a bit of our sky, slightly different. Maybe some of this nice yellow color that's right there. Or if you don't have it, just reach up and grab a little bit of this. Changes that sky just a bit. Makes it a little bit more of a hazy color here. And let's lighten that up just a bit more. Nice hazy color, but nice variation to it. Nice variation. Tap that through your brush here. Well, that's a nice color for the scheme, for the painting here. Not quite as blue. I'm going to push some of that right against that edge there. Let's lighten it up a bit because that's going to dry a bit touch darker. So let's push some of that right in. Now we're going to work the edges of the mountains here as well. Okay, and I try not to eliminate all of that nice fracturing of the edge here, but let's go a little bit lighter. Now we're bringing light in from the left, so the lighter part of the mountain here is on the left. We'll break that right up into that edge there. We'll bring this up here that way just a bit. Okay. And sometimes I will define it just a bit more, but I like to leave those little broken edges out there. That gives distance to it. See? It's distance. So let's just drag that edge there. That's a little perfect, but we'll go with that right now for right now. There. See, and so that little blurry edge right there going in there gives you a better distance to it. That's what I'm looking for. Some of that blurriness right down through there like that. That is going to give me a nice distance to my mountain sitting back there, further back. It's the fracturing of an edge. Now, your photo may not show that, and a lot of them don't, but we know, and we should push that in there. Now, I like to sometimes just use my finger to drive that edge as well. There. And the more of an edge you put on, the further forward you bring it. So if I want to, bring more of an edge here, I'm bringing it forward. Now I'm looking for a little bit of shadow there too. So if light's coming from this way, I'll look for just a bit of shadow coming down onto some of these, onto this side here. We'll go right into some of that, let some of that light and shadow. Now, a real impressionist would leave that mark pretty, wouldn't go at it. And that took me the longest time to be able to do it. I still can't leave it perfectly, but, some of the greatest painters that I admire, left those marks and left that impressionistic mark, and especially this early in the painting, because you don't know just how much detail is going to in the front is going to allow you to have that mark and leave that mark back there. Yeah, so let's take a bit of that gray from the sky and define that one up just a bit more. Just a bit more. Leave a little bit of that fracturing of those edges there. That makes it kind of nice. And we'll drop another, kind of vary their edges a bit here. Don't try to go, I'm getting a little bit too much samey same. That's my left brain coming in. So I'm gonna change this up like it is in the photo there. Go up a little higher here with this one. Here. And yeah, like that. Pull that up there. Yeah, just a little bit different right up there, and let's get just a touch of that light up on that side. There we go. A little higher, a little different edges there, and longer edge, pull down, vary. See, I'm just looking at the edges and varying those just a bit. That makes it a little bit nicer. And let's gray this a bit more, lighten it up. We'll get more atmospheric here, coming back out this way. Here we'll do basically not too much. We'll let this fade away back out over there. Just a touch of the mountain kind of colors back there, but changing them up a bit. Pull that down, soften some of those. We'll leave some of this nice color marks and stuff down in through here that gives you the depth. Back out here, we'll let the tones come together a little bit more. So this is going to pull the eye. You know how I like a journey. I want to pull the viewer's eye right down into this area here, and I'll leave some of that. That's a hard thing to do right there, just to leave that. You know, for us left brain painters that want to blend the heck out of it, that's a hard thing to do. But let me tell you, it just adds so much to your paintings, the life of your paintings, if you can start doing that. It takes a bit of practice to do that, though, to leave that. And a number of paintings, painting through just to see what the effect is. You know, you have to, when I say a practice on it, you have to learn to see what that effect is. You know, go through the painting, see what the effect is all the way to the end, so your eye can learn what that effect is. Here, let's just tab some of that around. I like that. There, that's pretty good. Let's get just a bit more of a darker tone in between right in there. Break some of that a little bit so we get some more of that interest, light dark interest there. There we go. And maybe a touch or two of light color coming like this way, so it creates the feel of a foothill there. There, like that. Leave that. Don't play with that, Dave. See if you can leave that. Let's just touch a little bit more of that grayed light yellow right in there. Leave a little bit of that going back there. We'll lighten it up. Touch more down through here. And now we need to get some strong, let's get a nice strong yellow horizontal up in here to give our depth back to our painting here. And make sure that you're kind of horizontal. Sometimes it's nice to just make sure, if you're going to paint that little farmhouse and stuff, that ranch house back there, make sure you give a nice horizontal, because they don't build it on the side of the hill. Kind of give it a nice horizontal level playing field there. There, like that. And that just, you can see how that horizontal just kind of levels out. And you can follow some of your other brush, some of your other marks that way with it. Some of those lights back up through there, like that. That's good. And break up some of that just a bit there. Leaves nice little marks. So step back and look at that, and you get a lot more distance, you know, with it, distance and interest when you do that there. So that's pretty good. Let's get just a touch more yellow. Nice variation right in there. A little more yellow oxide right in there, so you get some of the, see, that's what I want, is all those tones, you know, working in there. That's the beauty, that's the interest of the, so we don't go in there and try to paint anything perfect. We just drag some of these tones around. We still look for light and dark, light and you know, toned and the brightness and stuff of them, but yeah, we don't, we need to get some variation in there. Let's get just a bit of the, we're going to have some bushes and stuff right up here along the sides, so, and let's just fracture that edge a bit again. That's good. All right, so let's keep going now. Let's get down into our blues and our burnt siennas. A little bit of violet to keep the cool here. Let's come in and let's just deposit that bigger, darker shadow part of these bushes and the banks here. Push that right up a little higher there. Now that color's a little solid, so and it's a little dark, so I'm going to warm some of it with some burnt sienna. And we'll push up into where those trees and stuff were going to be. We'll pull some of this back out. Leave just that front little area there. Let's go up and get a black with just a touch of, a touch of black into some Hansa yellow, and we'll add some yellow oxide and some burnt sienna, maybe a touch of red. Get some nice variations of these greens and stuff that are going to come in here. And push these up. It'll be some of these bushes and stuff here. And in the photo, these go up quite high, covering up part of that hill there. So I'll go up a bit. And I just like that where I'm touching that in and some of these different colors come out. This is the block of, you go in and you block, and we'll block light and dark here in a minute, but we're just going to block in. Let this all, just get the color in so we can see where the bushes are, where the bank's going to be, and we'll refine it in just a bit. We won't worry about the refining of it right yet. Let's blue some of that up, change that tone. Add some of this right along the edge of that shoreline there. There'll be some other bushes and maybe a bit of light dark on them. So I just, I'm using just a corner here of my 8. I'm doing a lot of that with my 8, and I'm just rocking and rolling and pushing. We're painting the impression, all right? Painting the impression. It's a different way, again, quite a bit of different way. Let's yellow up. We'll add some light. We'll lighten up and yellow up a bit. We'll have some lighter ones here. We can touch a little bit of that around. Let's paint just the impression of this. More yellows. Make some just all kinds of nice greens here. Just grab some of those and paint those around. If it's too bright, add red to it. That will tone it down, gray it down. Let's just grab some of that right out here like that. There we go. Push that in. And variation. Variation is the key to interest, right? This is what we want to do real quick. Just capture some of those colors. Let's take just a bit of those colors right out in here. Push those out and around. We're going to put in light sides and dark sides and stuff there. Let's push some of this siennas. Push those up and in. Push those up and in through there so we'll get some of those lights and darks there. Let's go more yellow oxide, some of our lights here. And in block, we don't try to go in and make all the individual little branches and stuff. I'm just going to indicate the light side and the dark side, and push and try not to have a repetitive, which is hard, but try not to have a repetitive mark. I'm adding a little more Indian yellow and Hansa yellow here. We'll lighten up the top of this just a bit. Let's get a little more Indian yellow and Hansa yellow in that. And the Indian yellow is a fantastic color. It's just really weak. It's great for glazing and stuff though. But if you push too many times, it'll be gone. So you have to kind of let it. That's a nice thing about acrylics, is we just let it dry up a bit here before we go on, and let it do its thing there. Let's put a few marks of that. So you don't go in and paint individual bushes and stuff there. We're blocking in and giving the impression of these along the shoreline. Now I may cut some of that out. What I mean by that is I take some of my, let's get back to yellows, burnt siennas here, some lights, and take this line of the hill here and bring that forward right in there like that. So you paint back and forth, see? And that smalls down those just a bit, opens up the feeling of this, of the painting for my journey that I want. So, you know, I might, and this is where I say I go and I change and I look. I'm always painting the journey here. What's my journey? How's my journey going back? And these colors here will help bring that journey forward. Some of those nice little streaks. Let's just leave those for right now, because they'll dry down and disappear somewhere. Have you ever, I mean, you know, you think you get it right and then it dries down and disappears, and it's just annoying sometimes. You know, yeah, it all depends on the thickness of your color and the actual mark and the tones you have underneath. That's just all part of it. And let's take a little bit of that softer, kind of light but softer little grayed color. Pull back some of this the other way so we can get some idea of foothills running both directions there, just like that. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of cool. In there. So when you look at that, see, we capture like some of the look of the mark. Now this is smaller, and I do like that kind of smaller look. But this is where you are now, as you start to refine down and saying, okay, do I want to take that mark down just a bit, you know, for that look, and you know, add that that particular look in? Do we want to put those darker marks that we see in there, or are we fine, you know? And some of that I don't know yet until I get more on my water and what's all going on up here. But we can put a few little bits of that up in there, a little movement. That little light doesn't belong there. Take that back out. But a little bit of movement. We'll let that dry and see, you know, but a little bit doesn't hurt. Maybe just a touch of the light through that. But keep it very, you know, very thoughtful as far as, you know, you're building the side of a. You know, we don't want to go in there and paint Mount Hood like we did before, but we, you know, because we're painting more foothills and stuff. But yeah, keeping some of that mark. And the other way, which I've done it several times and really liked, is taking it with my knife and dragging my knife up through there. I get some very realistic looks that way. See how you get more of that granular kind of look, and that's really nice as well. You know, it's nice, it's fun to take a board and some paint and just explore some of these looks this way, you know, and see if you can capture some of those looks, you know, so that knife working like that works pretty good, you know, setting a few of those up, a few of those nice marks there. And so you're seeing, you know, I'm seeing kind of like the sides of the hills and stuff there. And yeah, and you might, but every once in a while, don't always pull them down here to the left. Every once in a while, pull one out this way so that you're, you know, because hills go all different kinds of ways here. So pull some down the other way so that you give a different feel to the hill there. Both ways, both directions there. Okay. Yeah, that works. Like that yellows and stuff in there. See, it just, all these tones just work together there to make that nice play of distance. Okay, let's keep going here so we don't run out of time here. Let's take some of this siennas and yellows here. I'm going to have to get myself some more yellow oxide and just define a touch more out here onto this front. Break that, let those be just shadows and stuff there. Let's take some blue, burnt sienna, and some red violet and deepen our shadows, giving kind of this cut bank in here. Pull some of them down a little further here, like that. It's very nice. And this is where I like to take some of these yellows, a little bit of this green, every once in a while, and just break up over the shadow, like there's a bush or something hanging down over the edge there, see? So it's not all just a line of dark. That's what makes it nice. So you can push back some of your lights sometimes, you know, here. But I want to leave this nice fractured edge on the water there. Okay, let's go up a bit lighter, a bit more yellows, model those up and through, bit of our burnt sienna here. Let's see what that looks. Yep, that's pretty. Let's just put a few marks of those here, like that. A little bit lighter. Just don't, and when you get lighter, boy, don't get smaller, because, you know, that's the law of disproportionate color anyway, as color theory. Those of you studying color theory, the law of disproportionate color, as the color gets lighter, the area it occupies gets smaller. So you've got to get it smaller, because it has a tendency to opaque out, take out, so you don't want to do that too much. Let's get just a few of these up. Some of those other colors there, like that. Just a few there. Let's go through and hit a couple of areas here. Some of those other areas. Kind of nice. And if you really want to, you know, I mean, create the distance and stuff, you can add a little more light to it. Be careful, not too much. Add just a touch more light. Let's get just a touch more light there to a few areas there. Work some of those darker violet-y tones in there, violet grays. I love those into the bushes. Just a few of those in. And let's add some of those nice violets and darks right along the edge of the water there. Get some of that sienna, that burnt sienna. Such a beautiful color, rich color that adds a lot into along your water lines and stuff. That just a nice rich color. Okay, and we'll put some of that burnt sienna, those greens, right up into here. Some of those colors. Grab that, and then we have those into the. Now, to me, for, you know, all that's real nice. My main statement is going to be in here into the water. I love to paint this stuff into the water. So now I'm going to grab some of these tones, especially into these burnt sienna tones, and start to pull them down into the water here. And I use if I want the water really calm and more of a reflection, I do a lot of downstrokes. But you do need to do some horizontal strokes that calms the water. So some horizontals, but I'll pull a lot of down, which is the reflection stroke here. Let's lighten that just a bit up in the top here. A little bit lighter up in here. Touch of green. There we go. And it, you know, it's really hard sometimes up here to see the difference where the bush comes off of the you know, the back of our painting there. Now we can correct that, but in the sample it is also that way. So we can correct, I mean, we can fix some of that by adding a little darker color here. Let's get darker, Dave, just right on the shadow side. That will lift it and actually pull it forward while still maintaining, so that you still see that you know, by maintaining that softness. But let's get this just a little lighter here. A few other little light areas here, right in there like that. Okay, so we'll pull those darks down, pull these siennas down, pull these down. Let's get just a nice yellow oxide stroke. Will be darker than that, but it'll give the feeling of that side of the bush. Sometimes I'll plan my lights so I can see like the edge of a light or something like that. Let's pull some of this down. Right in there. Some of this down in here as it's rounding the corner. This little water over there. It's rounding the corner. Let's get a nice violet again. Nice little blue violet here. Push that edge in, pull down just a bit. Let that go around the corner. We're going to use that. We're going to play the sky color against that in just a minute. But, let's get just a touch more blue into that. Some of the deeper tones that we have back in here. Now these deep tones, and we'll pull across, maybe up and down just a bit. Just kind of set those tones in. The deeper tones are going to allow this light to come forward. So, and they're there on the painting. I'm going to pull this over to the side here again. They're there on the painting. Those deep tones are in there, and you have a feeling of them pulling down a lot because these are mostly reflections in here. So I'll pull a lot down here, a few side to sides, but we'll pull a lot of verticals here down like that to set that water in. Okay, and yeah, that'll work. And then we'll come in here. We'll start to blue this up a bit. So when I'm a tone painter, I'll go in and start finding the tones. So I start to look into here. Okay, there's little touches of this particular blue, maybe a stroke of it right along here like that just fractured on the edge. So I just lightly with that fusion brush like that. So it puts a bit of that blue right in there, see? And then I'll look, okay, that blue is now see all this nice fracturing we have in here. Don't take it all out. You know, we're just adding other tones in here right now like that to give more of the look of the water back there. There'll be a little tiny bead of it right back here that causes it to go around the corner there, right there like that. And if you get too much, you just you just come back there with any kind of your violet and you drop that in. Take some of it out. Sometimes we want just a touch of that to pull down just a bit, just to break that a bit more. Let's get it a little bit lighter, more blue, a little bit more ultramarine blue, a little bit lighter here. Let's come up, let's say, yeah, that's the lighter version of it right in there. So now I'm going to now I'm not going to cover up everything I did before. Otherwise, why'd we do that? Let's just put that tone in there, okay? Don't cover up everything. Let's go back to a bit more of our phthalo blue and a little bit of that violet there. Let's drop that right up against that edge there. Just like that, see? Let's take some of this, maybe a bit of that violet. Let's just make a smaller little mark of it right in there. See, all these beautiful tones they just give you just magnificent reflections of the water, see? Let's take some of this right over here on this side. Bit of that violet. Pull right through and just do this. Just lightly pull right through the edge of those. And this is why I love the acrylics, because that's nice and dry, and I just drag it a little bit and it puts little hits of fractures of the sky up above, on that water, which is there, there'll be a bit of a light in between the two of them there. And we'll just pull out, fuzz the edge of them just a bit. Just like that. That's nice. Take a bit of that light right on that edge. Just drag over that edge. See? And so you step back. Let's step back and take a look. And you should be stepping back and taking a look as you're doing this. And you'll see that that's refining up pretty well. Not too bad. Let's take some of this nice violet color. A little darker up here. Let's just... This would actually be, starting to emulate where those clouds, in the original photo are. So, we could actually go pretty dark here because we're not going to put in that many clouds there. But some of that violet I like. Let's take it a little bit more blue, lighter blue here. Up about a value 6 or 7 or so. Right about in there. Different. Change the tone, change it, drag the tone. Don't eliminate everything you did before. Drag the tone. That's where your water starts to get pretty. There, so you see the differences of the tone starting to come there. That gets it good. And let's get the little bit more burnt sienna in our blues. Back up in through here. I love that burnt sienna. Love those powerful darker blues. Now I'm just going to go heavy paint up in here. This is really, pulls your eye up to the front up here. So we want to really pull your eye up here. Okay. And I went too far into that violet. So I'll just take a bit of that violet and just pull back right like that. I like those kind of things. See, I like that. And I'll leave that. Don't blend that out. Leave that because optically that's a great look for the water. Just a few of those little marks like that just make the water just look so great. Okay. Now we have to get our yellows, our burnt siennas, some of this green here. Back down into this side, the reflections of these guys over here. Pull down a lot, sometimes side to side. Pull down a lot. There. There we go. Some nice darks there. And we'll go back up towards our yellow oxides. A little bit of that green and burnt sienna into it. So on that side. Give an idea of those. Just try to capture the feel of it. Don't try to copy it. Just capture the feeling of it. There, like that. It's kind of nice. Very, very loose and casual. And many times when I do that, I blur it. You can, where we talked about taking a big brush before and doing that, and I don't necessarily do that as much as anymore, as much as I just come in and take off, maybe sometimes with the darker blue, which is what you're going to have, the darker blue or something coming through and blurring through that that reflection there, so taking some of it off. Things that are really nice, like here, let's grab some of this blue. It's still wet right here. Stopping, coming right up in here, or starting right here, which would be the edge, putting in a couple of real prominent edges right in here like this, help the look of your water. Remember we did this on the Colorado. That helps the look of the water and your sky and stuff, and we did that on that Colorado. Left a real big mark between our light and our shadow there. So yeah, that's kind of nice. Let's just soften that edge just a bit. There we go. So that puts that in. And yeah, now I'm gonna just come through and add just a touch more of my darks here, which help my bushes off of the water here. My shoreline bank and Helps my shadows. A lot of times, you know, we're painting with shadow more than anything else, you know. It's, yeah, it's a lot of times. I need to get a bit more yellows, some of these greens, and drop that in there like that. And I might go off of the photo here and take a lighter blue right through. Let's go, that's a little too light. Here, come right across, right up to the edge of this. There we go. Just so I see that sky, that color coming back up over there. Look at how, see that nice modeling of that sky back there. That looks pretty good. You can, you know, come in and refine back just a few of these. You know, as you see them, sometimes it's nice to let that rest for a little bit to see what you're going to do. But I pretty much know what I'm going to do here. Is I'm going to, first thing I'm going to do is put out some more yellow oxide, because I'm going to need that. And I'm going to block in here, block in some bushes that are going to come right here. Here, there's going to block those in. Let's put a little bit of that yellow out over there. And you know, you can come back in and break these apart a little bit more. You know, put some lights into them, work some darks. You could, if that bothers you, you could take more to a tan, more of your lighter burnt sienna here, green burnt sienna right here like this that we had here, and put some of that tan color in to break that, the green of the thing. Just don't get rid of all of your depth and stuff there. And you got to decide if you're going to put that little bit of the ranch house kind of thing back there as well, you know, back there. Are you going to do that? You know, and I'll decide some of my final lights here too. Do I want to push in some more light back here? I'm going to push this in because I'm starting to decide light, and I'm going to put this in and let this dry down. I like that. Boy, all of that buildup now starting to show here. There we go. That just adds a touch more to it. Now it's going to dry down, so that's what I want to watch. And let's take a bit of that nice purpley color right up against that foothills there, just to break that just a bit. It might be a little too purpley, but I can fix that too. We're artists. We can do anything, right? We can fix that. We put something on, we don't like it, fix it. Okay, so I want to take some of this, because I'm going to be coming up onto the light side. I'm going to take all of this, kind of mix this all up here. And we're going to, it's all grungy and stuff, which is perfect. I'm going to toss this all into here, start lightening it up a bit. Get a little burnt sienna, some of my yellows, a little red here. Make it more of a gray here. And I'm going to make this cut bank, or just bank up over on this side. We have to add a few lights to our bank onto the other side there as well. And we have to add, you know, decide, are we going to, you know, push in some rocks in here? You know, I'm going to push the bank out a little bit, in and out. I don't like to make, and it's a habit of mine to do that, so I have to consciously, you know, break the banks up to undulate. I usually, you know, my left brain will usually make them, you know, perfect and straight line, but they're prettiest if they undulate a bit. So I'll undulate this a bit here. And let's take some of that dark and just walk right over that edge of that just a bit here. We can blur them together. You know, that'll give you a nice feeling of, you're not really sure what's water, what's not, and that's a little dark. And it will give you shallows, the look of the shallows of the water there. Let those colors just kind of cross each other there. Let's take some of that and push some of that out, in and out like that. And so sometimes I'll leave it that rough. Sometimes I'll just take my brush and just drag through just to create that extra little bit of interest there. But I like that to kind of undulate a little bit up in the front there. And you can put a rock and other little things. You can leave a bank. You can put a cut bank in there, the angles make a nice light side and receding side of a plane, and make a little cut bank here. Make some rocks. Bring some of your lights and darks up different. Let's bring some lights and darks up, some grays, some green, and the reds and the grays. Let's bring some darks up. This light-dark interchange, though, like anything, remember when we did that on the beach and all that in the water? This light-dark is what gives you a lot of depth and brings it forward to contrast. So really up front here, we want to have a lot of light and a lot of dark here coming through. Here, let some of that go through. You can put, little reeds. You can, there's all kinds of stuff that we could do there. I'm going to build up here while I have some of this light up here. Hit that light right out here. Push that out like the sunlight is hitting this little edge here at this point before it goes back into shadow out there. And more yellow there, out there like that. Drag that through there, just like that. That's, yeah, and maybe a bit more of a shadow coming out. Taking some of that out. A bit more of this shadow coming out a little further there. And something, a good impressionist would just leave that mark. I'd go in there for so many years and just blend the heck out of it. Just leave that nice little edge there, like that. And see if I can leave that alone. That looks pretty good. A little bit more here. That's up to you how much you're going to do there. But I like that crossing of it there. Like I say, we could put some rocks in there. If you want, let's go with a lighter yellow. Maybe a touch of the black to help us get the green, or a little bit of our green here. Let's work this little bush here. And a little bit more yellow here. And we'll build one up, build it up a little bit more here in the front. This side. That's a little too light, but boy, that would make a nice contrasty landscape. Here. Just roll and push your brush all different kinds of ways. Don't take out all of your mid-tone, but we just want to have some of these different little edges and stuff over here. And some of those lights might look nice. Let's go a little bit light. Smaller little corners of your brush. That'll make it more airy. You're painting more airy, but you got to remember we were going to be blocking that too. So, Block is where you do more up and down and horizontal here when you paint them, so it keeps more with your landscape of the feeling of it. And you'll see a lot of artists do that. It's very, very popular. I add just a bit of light right out here. Little touches of it. There. Little bits. Might have to let this, it's got a lot of paint on it and it's really wet, so every time I touch it, it kind of absorbs. So I might have to let that dry and just work on that just a bit there. I'm going to, a little bit of like the shoreline back here, shadow on that side. Pushes that back. Here. A bit more around the corner. So if you notice now, see, I'm starting to see smaller things. Working on smaller things. And yeah, this is, this is really how you go about. You start out really big and then you start working it smaller. Let's put a deeper violet shadow up on that cut bank there, down, up into our tree line there just a bit. There. Carry those colors over. Yeah, and then if you want to paint, a more impressionistic little ranch house back there, just might do that. Might, just come in and see that dried way down, that light. So I might hit that a couple times here to, and drag, see, just drag so you get that fracturing of the color. I just love how the fusion brushes do that. Just makes it look like you know what you're doing, as that just fractures over all those colors as we start to lighten up that plane there, and maybe pull it a little bit more like a downstroke here, so it's a little bit like a hill. You pull down there and lighten up through, thin out the color, drag this. Sometimes push up right up into that, brings some of these bushes forward as well. Here. There. So it's just, so see, I'm balancing the colors, the looks that I want to have, pulling it through. And the hills back here in the sample are a lot more sienna, a lot more burnt sienna into them. Warmer, redder sienna tones, so I'm going to add just a bit of that back in there, and yeah, and then leaving some of those darks right there, breaking that up a bit, that light dark coming through there. It just gives a really neat look if you can leave it and not blend it. Leaving these fractured edges and stuff there. It's just a really nice look. So I might come in there and it's just going to be a tapping, if you're going to paint the little house and the little ranch house and stuff back there. I might do it. They just, I'd use a smaller brush here, Dave, than this, but I generally try to paint with as large a brush as I can because you get a better edge to everything. But you'll put in like a mark for the trees, like where there's going to be some trees. And let's go with a little bit smaller brush here. And we'll just work some colors back there. You just generally work some lights, darks, like little roof lines. You paint very impressionistically here. And so you put on little angle strokes, grays here. Let's get a little blue and a nice gray here. And touch those colors around. Little lights, little darks. You leave them, you leave their edges pretty much, you leave their edges, if you're painting something like that, you leave the edges really kind of distinct. Let's take a little dark run that underneath it here. So what you do is you're just painting the impressionism of that little ranch back there. Step back and take a look. You know, just little bushes, little things going on back there. And you just start adding this, and I'll work that, when I'm doing something like that, I'll work the ground at the same time, because you need those nice horizontals, and some dirty color like that just sets them back. You need those linear, and it's so very important, guys, you need linear planes to help set stuff back. So we need a nice linear horizontal right there to help set that visually back. So we see a few of those streaks there to start setting that, you know, further back. And tap. The big thing is, you know, tap some little sparks of light and stuff through here. You don't know what those are there. You know, that's just a little ranch back there. Little stuff going on. Maybe there's another little thing there. You know, and just, you can go put in little cows and little people, and if you don't have a life, you can put all that stuff in there. I'm just going to, you know, the best of all Impressionism, and this is what it is. See, and when you look way back there, you don't see, but you like, you know, the idea of adding something like that, it does a couple of things. First off, the painting looks the best when you step back. That we know, because it's an impressionistic painting. And it's optical, right? We're optically blending. And then artists, when you're designing something like this, and one reason why I grabbed this is because you see that little ranch house and you paint it just enough to give it a little bit, but it causes the viewer to see it and go, what is that? And they start moving closer to the painting. That it draws them into the painting. That's what artists do. That's what good selling artists do, is they put those little elements in. We'll put in some yellows and stuff like this and stuff. But you put these little elements in that's going to draw these people into the painting. And, you know, you may have something that is just a little bit more perfect, is like a little tree or something like that, that helps you see that. And, you know, if you put one there, you should put a, if you're doing something like that, you should put a few other little trees, you know, around a few other areas if you're doing that here. And so, and you're painting impressionistically, so you put those on there, and rather than those being just daubs of color, you want to come and do what I call incorporate. You want to touch some of your ground color and incorporate those back in so that they stay a little softer back there like that, you know. So anyway, it's a lot of fun. And you can, you know, I might come in here, put a little rock right up in there. I probably will. You've seen me do those rocks before. We don't need to do that. Besides, I'm almost to an hour and a half here now. And I might come in and put just a little bit more in the water. I may come back in and, you know, I look for certain things like this. If I want to get a little bit more misty depth or something to that, I'll take some of my, you know, almost my white, my bit of my blues here, and I'm going to go almost to pure white, just real light, because this dries down. And come back in here and add some of that, almost like a negative painting, blurring up over the edges just a bit up over the edges there. I like to do that. You know, come back in, I can refine a little bit more, but this will make it also look like little clouds and stuff going on back there. And so I work my my depth again. You know, I worked this depth again this way. I can, you know, streak that up and make it look like a bit of a cloud there. If I want to pull that viewer right into that area there, see? And all different kinds of ways. We can put more of a cloud back up over on this side. Here, right back behind that one. Just pull some of this light, just kind of tap and push up a bit and just fracture the edge and just let it sit there. It doesn't need to do any more than that. It'll look like that. Maybe just a touch more white, but not a pure white. Not a pure white, just a touch more white. Right up into there. And kind of streak those through there. So if you go pure white, and if you put in those two things, you'll go boom, boom. Your eye will bounce back and forth between the two of them and stuff. It's not so great. So probably a little bit more. I'll do just a little bit more, a few more little rocks. Watch this. This is really where you want to work this area up in here. And I'm really close. Let's pull this over to the side. Value-wise, I'm greener, which I probably, I'm a little bit greener, and I probably should go over to the sienna. And why would I go more to that sienna? Is because it helps break this front shoreline of these bushes and stuff apart too. So all it takes is just a little light sienna there. See, once you get all that movement and that color in there, it doesn't take very much to change it around. And so that breaks that apart there. Maybe a touch of my brighter yellow in there. The cameras can't pick up all the soft color changes there that are there. That's really sad. And so many people, they come in here into the gallery and they go, oh yeah, I watched you paint that. Wow, the painting has so much more of it than what the photo or what the video shows. Yeah, because they can't pick up all the colors, all those layers of all those colors that we put in there and everything. But anyway, step back and look at it from there. Get the optical part of it. Decide if you want a few more bushes or rocks or something. Yeah, there's a lot of fun that you can add. Now, see, if that were me and my westerns, I'd be adding the little cows into the background and all that kind of stuff. But that's for another time. I hope you enjoyed it. Painting Impressionism like this is really a lot of fun. And let me tell you, that's pretty much an amazing scraper. A little red devil thing. I like that. Just put on and push that down. It gave you some nice variations to those tones and just makes this nice hills and stuff, okay? But you can go back there and put more lights, darks on your hills and work that. Keep it impressionistic. Keep it fun. Let people see in it what they need to see. Don't answer all of the questions. That's what Impressionism does. We put on just enough to say, okay, yeah, that's a hill, that's a cloud, that's something back there, and let them see the rest of it, okay? All right. Have a good time with it, and you'll see my final photo and stuff that I did with it, but have a good time with it, and we have a couple more to do, okay? I'll see you on the next one.